Feel the heart. Experience the soul. Community Pulse.
Is Dr. Faiez Kirsten, and he joins me live in studio, and we're asking the question this morning: are corporations idols, and are they taking us to hell? Assalamu alaikum and shukran for being here.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Zainab.
Always a pleasure having you here, alhamdulillah.
Shukran, it's a pleasure to be here.
Quite an interesting topic we had a few weeks ago, Dr. Faiez, and people have still been talking about it.
Which one is that?
The one that we did last.
On the mathematical
Yes.
vertical of the Quran?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But this morning we're asking a very interesting question. Are corporations idols, and are they taking us to hell? I'm going to ask you to answer that.
Well, I can't actually answer it because only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the answer to that. But from what, in my assessment, I think they are actually. Why would I say that? Well, look, I've been at the business school, and the first thing that they taught me, actually maybe the second thing, the first thing they taught me was economics. In economics, that economics is the study of scarcity. So there's scarce resources in the world, which to me didn't sound right. But the second thing really was this idea of a legal entity, a corporation. Now, being a doctor, my whole life I was dealing with real living human beings. And they were teaching me something called a legal fiction, which has all these abilities. It's called a corporation, right? On one hand, I could understand it because you needed some kind of vehicle to conduct commerce by, okay? But the thing that didn't make any sense to me was, how is it possible for a fiction to have any rights? Okay? And rights over human beings in many instances too. That made absolutely zero sense to me. And nobody could actually answer that question. How is it possible for a fictional entity to have any rights and to do anything? And nobody can actually answer that question today even, because it's an unanswerable question, because it's completely nonsensical. But everybody actually believes that a corporation is a real thing, and we'll define it just now. But what bothers me is that we are following these corporate laws, okay? So corporations have laws, they're called statutes, okay? And we're following these laws above the laws of the creator of the universe. And those are the laws that we should be following. Now, in other words, we're following the laws of some other entity rather than the laws of Allah, okay? Now, Allah says there's only one sin that He won't forgive, okay, if you die in that state, okay? And that sin is the sin of shirk, okay? Which means taking partners with Allah. And in many cases, we're not just taking the corporation as a partner with Allah, we're actually making the corporation supersede Allah. In other words, we completely sideline Allah, although we pay lip service, okay, and we sort of follow the 5 pillars of Islam. But ultimately, when you look at our behavior, we're actually just completely sidelining God, and we're saying the corporation statutes are what's more important. Now, there's a hadith that says, Sahih Bukhari, book 60, hadith 265, says, on the day of resurrection, Allah will say, "O Adam, Allah orders you to take from your offspring a mission for the hellfire." And Adam will say, "O Lord, what are the mission for the hellfire?" And Allah will say, out of each 1,000, take 999. Now, that means 999 out of 1,000 people, sins have not been forgiven. What must they have done for their sin? What sin must they have committed not to be forgiven? 999 out of 1,000. And I asked myself that question: what sin have so many people committed that God will just never forgive them? And He tells us in the Quran, there's one sin I will not forgive if you die in that state. And that sin is the sin of shirk. If you take partners with me, then I will not forgive you if you die in that state. So how many people are actually in that state today without knowing it? Maybe Allah will forgive us because we don't know it, okay? But I thought to myself, I know this now. I can't keep it to myself. I have to share this information. This is serious stuff. Now, which surah tells us, which verse and which surah? I'm quickly going to read Surah Nisa, verse 116 says, Verily Allah forgives not the sin of setting up partners in worship with Him, but He forgives whom He wills sins other than that. And whoever sets up partners in worship with Allah has indeed strayed far from the path. So He tells you will not forgive that sin. What must I say? There we go. So we can talk about what is a corporation and what is an idol. Maybe we must define an idol. Just another verse, short verse from the Quran. It says, O men, follow what has been revealed to you from your Lord, and follow not masters other than Him. Little are you admonished. But William Penn, who was actually the founder of Pennsylvania, America, he said, men must be governed by God, or they will be ruled by tyrants. Now we have this crazy cabal controlling the world. They're worse than tyrants, I think. Why? Because we're not being ruled by God, so you're being ruled by tyrants. So what is an idol? An idol is defined as a non-living entity imbued with rights and authority over living human beings by themselves. Okay? That is the definition of an idol. Okay? It can be an image, a physical thing, but men create this thing, then they imbue it with rights and authority over them. That is actually a corporation. So a corporation, in my view, is actually an idol. Okay? And everything today is a corporation. And the world is ruled by a corporation called the Crown Corporation. Okay, we'll talk about the 3 city-states that rule the world, okay? So you have the Vatican City, you have the City of London and Washington, D.C. These are separate sovereign states. They don't belong to Italy or to England or UK or to America. These are sovereign states, corporate states, the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, these 3 states, which basically run the world. When we talk about the globalist agenda, it's the Crown Corporation and the other 2 states that basically run the world. These are corporations, and we are following their laws, okay, above the laws of God. If something is not serious, then I don't know if this is serious or not. But to me, this is like a serious issue.
In fact, Dr. Faiez, I read an article where it says that there are signs that universities are now also turning into corporations.
Everything's a corporation. But now I want to start with something. I want to pick your brain quickly, Zainab, before we go on. If I ask you what is your name, what would you say?
Zainab.
Zainabin. Okay. So if I ask you, who are you? You'll say, I am Zainabin. So in other words, you're saying, I am my name. You said that, right? You said, my name is Zainabin. And you said, I am Zainabin, which means you are your name. Okay. Is that true?
True.
So are you Zainabin? I'm starting to doubt whether you are. No, okay. So you're saying you are Zainabin. But I will say that's impossible for you to be Zainabin. You'll say, wow, Dr. Kirsten's really lost it this morning, okay? What I'm saying is you are not your name. Your name is separate from you. Who are you? You are a creation of God. You're a living, breathing human being, flesh and blood, okay? What is a name? Aha, that's the question. You see, a name is a code. It's a symbol. It's ink on paper. It's pixels on a computer screen. It's sound waves going through the air and hitting your eardrum. So if I say Zainabin, it's sound waves going from my vocal cords through the air, hitting your eardrum, and your brain is registering the sound, which you recognize as Zainabin. But that's not you. So when you were born, they could have named you baby. Which baby were you? The fourth, first, second?
The fifth baby.
So your mother could have said, I named this baby 5, okay? Baby number 5. And the one before you is baby number 4, Why? Because they needed a way to get your attention when they wanted you to tell you something, or to basically identify you, okay?
So like a label. So
they gave you a label so that they could identify you, okay? Or get your attention. They had to say something. They couldn't say, and you must look. They'll say, baby 5 or Zainab. But government sort of, in their evil ways, created a corporation called Miss Zainabin, okay? And you'll find it in all caps letters. So all your correspondence comes to you in that name. So you think when you read the name, you think it's you, okay? It's not you. It's a corporate entity owned by government. And that's how they basically control your life, through this corporate entity called your straw man. So you're right. Everything is a corporation Because everything is a business. Because everything is about money and commerce.
Before you continue, Dr. Faiez, just a reminder, this is Radio 786 and 100.4 FM. We're talking about corporations and we're talking about idols. We're talking about whether or not they will be taking us to hell. Let's take this first caller. You're live on Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Shanabeen.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you, doctor?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I'm very well, brother. Very well.
Alhamdulillah. I just want to add to the discussion about the idol worshipping and we must pose ourselves the question, how did we get to the stage where we have neglected the concept of an almighty being? Because the concept of a higher being, the creator, has been totally taken away. Now, Doctor, you speak about corporations. Even our religion is based on corporation. If you look at what the Saudi government is promoting via the scholars that comes from there, they won't send scholars out to the world that won't dictate their policy, how they want Islam to be, because the Islam that we are practicing, partly what Allah Ta'ala wants, but it's also partly what they want us to do, because it's all about social control. Now, when you speak about corporation, now I wish you can hear on this, can we use religion as well and make it into a corporation where the social control is being done via the narrations instead of via the Quran? Because what we have adopted, and people think I'm against the hadith. I'm not against the hadith. I'm against the hadith that does not corroborate with the Quran. Because our Nabi, he embodied the Quran. He didn't embody, like the one Sheikh told me the other day, we must be grateful to Sidna Asia for 2/3 of our deen comes from her. And this is a sick statement that this man is making, and he's a well-learned scholar to make a statement like that. It's because we have taken the concept of sort of depending on Allah alone. We depend on man. But we must pose ourselves the question, why are we in this quagmire of social problems? Look, what is, what's happening there, in the Middle East? All the Islamic countries are being destroyed because because half of the Arabs doesn't even side. They have now adopted. Saudi Arabia is adopting now. They're going to bring in movies. They're going to bring in the opera. They are. You're asking France to bring in their classical to sort of instruct the Arabs how to hear classical music in Saudi Arabia, and this is what's happening. So it's the corporation. I wish, Doctor, that you can expound on. Is it possible that corporation can creep into our deen as well?
Okay, shukran so much for your contribution. Shukran wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. We have one more caller. Radio 786, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I would like to agree to a point what the previous caller has mentioned, but I would like to add as well. We always talk about the hadith. Even the Quran has been misinterpreted by people who claim to be open-minded and liberal, for example. Like they would accuse the Quran and say allegations about the Quran which they have no knowledge and evidence about. But they will always talk about the Quran. But when you ask them where the evidence is from the Quran, they can't prove it to you. Now, like the Honorable Doctor has mentioned about idols. Let us explain what is idols according to the Holy Quran. Allah Ta'ala says clearly, if you love something and you put something before Allah and before the truth, that becomes your idol. Because you give more status and recognition to that above Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now idols can mean your car, your wealth, your status, your wife, your children, your house, your job. These are all idols. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says clearly in Surah An-Nisa, those who disbelieve in Allah and His messengers plural, Rusuli, not Rasul, Rusuli. Those who know Arabic can rectify me. And they say we believe in some and we disbelieve in others. And they want to find a way there in between. Why? To please the clergy. Now the clergy, they have used the masajid as corporations because it has become a money spinning machine. So people have to keep their followers dumb so they don't get out of the circle to be enlightened about truth. Now the problem that we have, We only look at idols when it comes to non-Muslims, but we fail to see the idols within Islam, within the Muslims, unfortunately, because they've turned Islam into a commercial religion, and they've hidden the truth because they must look after their status. Now, I'll put a challenge to any sheikh, any Maulana, any mufti, whether they know Arabic or what. If anyone can prove to me from the Quran that Allah says no more prophets will come after Muhammad sallallahu, I've got 750 rand in my pocket. I'll give him that money as a reward. If anyone can produce to me a verse from the Quran where Allah says no more messengers will come to guide people after they've gone astray from the Quran, I'm prepared to give him that as a reward.
Shukran so much. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. We have one more caller live. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam to you, lady, and salam to the learned scholar there. Yes, I love this man's kind of topics that he raised, and it enlightened me so much. And I just want to pose a question, maybe you can give me an answer to this, We know, I'm speaking specifically about the Muslim world because I'm a Muslim, and I want to ask this question, We know there's a great onslaught, especially in the Middle East, and Muslims in particular, and they don't hide it. Bolton and many of these kinds of people, they make it clear. They got a vendetta against Muslims. Now, the point I want to say, me too? Are we blame the Saudi Arabians, the governments, the dictators, and what did you? Maybe not all of them are on the wrong, and we got Allah's all-forgiving. But the main question I'm asking, you as a doctor, if we face intricate things, whatever, that takes the human race, and you as an individual can't solve this problem, then you consult with all the other doctors how we can find a solution to get to this problem. Now, my problem is this: we're forever speaking about the wrongdoings of our Muslim, so-called Muslim leaders, but where does our learned scholars, what role do they play? Because I can, according to me, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam send a delegation to the wrong to speak to their rulers. Do we speak to our rulers? Do some correct the rulers? Do we do this? But we could keep on complaining about it. And I think it's high time that the ulama speak directly to them. And if they don't want to change, they address it in the masajids. Because this is not a light matter, because the people are getting killed in the process, and the whole world is going on this mad vendetta. And please, I got the greatest respect to our scholars, but it's high time that they get together. It's high time that they put more effort into this, because it's no use speaking on an isolated individual in one masjid. Get together the global ulama. And address this kind of question, whether it's in South Africa, we boast they are the bastion of fighting for freedom. When are they going to do it? Shukran.
Shukran so much for your contribution. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are listening to Radio 786 on 100.4 FM. The time just gone on just past 9:30, and I do have in studio Dr. Faiez Kirsten. We're talking about corporations, and we're talking about idols, and really, is it the same thing? Dr. Faiez, we have quite a number of different things that you need to focus on and answer. But looking at the very first caller that we received.
Yes. Hadith, corroborating with the Quran. For me, it's the same thing. If a hadith makes no sense and it doesn't, then it doesn't make any sense. You're supposed to use your critical thinking abilities. Okay, so if the hadith says something completely ridiculous
and obviously and
contradicts the Quran, then it must be disinformation that was put in there, and that's not surprising. It happens all the time throughout history. Okay, you are supposed to use your critical thinking abilities.
Before you answer the next question, we have one more caller. Let's go to the lines. Radio 786. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Zainabin. This Dr. Kirsten is such an intelligent person. He's preparing this program before he comes on air. he is invited on the 786 as a guest speaker to entertain us here, and then we allow people to phone in and to hijack the whole program of the gentleman. I don't think that is fair. Either we're going to cut out callings, or we're going to limit it to 2 minutes or 3 minutes. But I mean, some of these people, they don't consider these guests that is coming out here to sit here and educate us. And I'm very, I'm going to hop on it every day now, because it seems to me that we people don't listen to the request.
Shukran wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Perhaps, and just on that note, we should just mention that we do encourage people to call in, but however, please do stick to a minimal time, because we need to accommodate everyone, and we also want the bulk out of the conversation, of course. Dr. Faiez.
Yes, I think the most important thing is the laws that you are following, whether it's a corporate law or not, it doesn't matter. If you need a vehicle to conduct commerce in, okay, then fine, you need a vehicle. But when you start making these vehicles your God, and you're following the rules that you created as human beings above the laws of God, then that is taking a partner with God, and that is shirk. So that is completely unacceptable, not in my eyes, but in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So people have faith now in corporations, and I just want to quote a student who was given a donation or a sponsorship in America by a corporation, and he said, we will always have faith in the corporate world because it is always going to be there. If you don't have faith in it, then this is not good. Okay, so people have put their faith in the corporate entity. That's where everybody's faith is being put into, okay? Rather than being put into God, okay? So, but what is a statute? A statute is not a law. Only God can make laws. Statutes are regulations, codes, whatever you want to call them, rules that human beings make. And I want to just quote a Supreme Court judge in 1956. There was a case in America. He made a ruling on the illegality of statutes, because statutes operate under what we call the color of law, and I'll tell you what the color of law means. So he said that the Supreme Court has warned, because of what, let me just see this, he says, because of what appear to be lawful commands, in other words, statutory rules, regulations and codes, ordinances and restrictions, on the surface, many citizens, because of their respect for what appears, he says, what appears to be law, are cunningly coerced into waiving their rights due to ignorance. In other words, there's deception, deceptive practices, constructive fraud, barratry, legal plunder, conversion, and malicious prosecution in inferior administrative courts. So in other words, he's saying, these statutes are not law, basically. They operate under the color of law. What is the color of law? The color of law is something done with the apparent authority of law, but actually in contravention of law. It's an appearance, a semblance, as distinguished from that which is real. It's a deceptive appearance. Color signifies a probable plea, but which is in fact false. So, in fact, in my view, corporations are constructs of satanic minds. And ultimately, corporations probably come from Iblis and Shaitan, okay? That is why Shaitan is making us follow his laws. And that's where he's going to take us in the end. When we stand up on the day of judgment, he's going to take us right into hell, because he's created these corporations, and we've fallen for the trick.
Sure. Dr. Faiez, we are due for a break, and after the break, inshallah, we continue. I'd like to touch on how very often we speak about we are moving towards becoming almost a godless society, and I think with the corporations, it's helping us to do so. But let's do that after the break, inshallah. This is Radio 786 100.4 FM, and Dr. Faiez Kirsten in studio talking about corporations, and after the break, inshallah, we will continue. Stay tuned. You are listening to Radio 786 on 100.4 FM, also 1584 medium wave in Pretoria. Now we are in the first hour of Community Pulse, looking at corporations with Dr. Faiez Kirsten. And Dr. Faiez, in the chapter 14 of the Quran, verse 22, it reads, you can't blame Shaitan for your actions, because on the day of judgment, he will say, I had no authority over you. I only invited you and you responded, so do not blame me, but blame only yourselves.
There you go. Absolutely. It's about self-responsibility. Okay.
Yes.
And Shaitan is going to say exactly what it says in the Quran.
Yes.
But it's not too late, because we know we're not yet dead.
Mm.
Okay. So we can do something about it now. Okay. But whether we will, that's a completely different story. Okay?
True. Dr. Faiez, I also did mention before the break that we often speak about how we are becoming this godless society. And I think that the corporations are ultimately helping us to do so.
Well, I think you're too kind. We are becoming, I think we already there. We are, in fact, a godless society. That's the agenda. Novus Ordo Seclorum. Take God out of the equation and make everything materialistic. Worship material stuff and money.
Let's go to the lines. Radio 786, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Doctor. And I want to ask a question. Maybe you can answer it. You say the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that we must love Allah more than ourselves. We must love the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam more than ourselves. So if we love anything of the creation more than ourselves, I mean more than Allah and more than the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, isn't that a way of idol worshipping? Shukran wa salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're loving everything else besides Allah.
Especially material things.
Yes, we love it. We worship it, actually. We worship our car, our house, our money, our gold. We love that stuff, you know. But that's all temporary, you know. Anyway.
We also have one more message that came via WhatsApp. It says, the word corporations is another word for Illuminati and Freemasons, etc.
Well, you got to look at the history. Exactly. Well, these are the kind of minds that run the world, basically, as I said, through the 3 city-states. These are corporate entities, corporate states. The military part of the Trinity is in Washington, D.C. Then the economic and financial world is controlled by London, the City of London Corporation. And then the spiritual part of this Trinity, the religious part, is controlled by the Vatican, the Catholic Church, basically. So these 3 entities control the world, and they're unfolding the globalist agenda. And they obviously have to make us believe what they want us to believe, follow the laws that they want us to follow in order to achieve their goals. And we basically have done that. And we've put the Quran on the highest shelf in the house. And we watch TV every evening. And we get programmed, and we read newspapers and magazines. And so we start believing. We go to university and schools, and we believe everything they tell us, which comes from these entities controlling the world. So it's not surprising that we believe that we have what we suffer from disinformation overload syndrome, which is a diagnosis that I coined last week, and information deficiency syndrome. So we're suffering from these 2 very serious conditions which need remedy as soon as possible. So Shaitan has basically created these corporations with something called limited liability. Now, in the eyes of Allah, you have unlimited liability. Every thought, belief, action you take, you will be held responsible and accountable for on the Day of Judgment, okay? But Shaitan came and said, no, we have this corporate entity which gives you limited liability as a shareholder. So it doesn't matter what happens in the company, you won't be held responsible as a shareholder. Or as a director also, oftentimes they have limited liability. They hide behind the corporate veil. And so they can do things. So it's actually, the corporation is actually a perfect vehicle to actually commit crime. And in fact, the world is run by a criminal cabal. I call them the GMCC, Gog and Magog criminal cabal. Okay. Now, this is what Max Kaiser, I don't know if you know Max Kaiser
I
on RT. He's a crazy guy. Now, he made a comment on he was responding, to comments on the colossal healthcare fraud in America. This is what he said. He said, fraud is the underlying force that drives the entire GDP in America and the globe. And so why should healthcare be immune from this? He says Wall Street is driven by fraud, the banks are driven by fraud, defense corporations are driven by fraud. The whole world is driven by fraud. It's a fraudulent criminal system created by satanic forces, okay? Shaitan, Iblis, whatever you want to call them. And we all living in this, we're born into this criminal system. No matter how hard you work and how much, effort you make in an honest way, they still steal your stuff because it's a criminal system. And that's what do criminals do? They steal, okay? So we are fast asleep. And, in my assessment, looks like maybe I'm not Allah. Only Allah knows where we're all going. But we look at that hadith that I quoted and what the Quran says, then just common sense will tell you, the probability of us going to Jannah doesn't look very good, actually. It looks very
But
small.
don't you think that the saddest part of all of this is that even though you sometimes warn people or you tell them the truth, they still seem to
Well, you can ask me about
turn their
that.
back.
You have people arguing with me and they have no knowledge about the subject that they're arguing about. Zero knowledge. But they argue. That's, to me, is a fascinating experience. They will provide opinion and comment, but they have no understanding. You ask them a simple, basic question about the subject on which we're discussing and they're arguing with you about. They can't answer a simple question, which means they know nothing about the subject, but they are happy to argue with you about the subject. So it's quite amusing on one side, on one part, but it's also quite tragic on the other.
My father always says that we tend to blame shaitan for a lot of things, but I think shaitan sometimes sits to the back and actually just watches because he's already done his job. We just.
I once heard Imam in a mosque talk about shaitan. It was quite funny, but it was quite pertinent. I don't know if I have enough time to tell you that joke, but it was quite good actually. But can I tell it to you quickly? One day this man meets shaitan. He's walking the road. He meets shaitan, and he said, "Hey, shaitan, how are you?" Shaitan said, "No, I'm okay." He says to shaitan, "Can I, join you today and see what you get up to?" Shaitan says, "Yeah, sure, not a problem. So he follows shaitan around. He says, "No, shaitan is doing nothing wrong, the whole day." He follows him the whole day. He's done nothing wrong. So he says to shaitan, "Wow, you're quite a good shaitan, eh? I haven't seen you do anything wrong today." Shaitan says, No, I'm shaitan." So the man said, "Look, I think I want to invite you home for supper, man. I'm so impressed with you. Shaitan done nothing wrong the whole day. That's great. Come on. Come have supper with me." Shaitan said, No, I can't do that. The man said, "Why?" Shaitan said, "No, I can't go have supper with shaitan." The man, "What do you mean?" He said, No, I can't go eat by shaitan's house. The man said, "What do you mean? You shaitan? I'm not shaitan." Shaitan said, No, you shaitan. The man said, "What do you mean I'm shaitan?" Shaitan said, "Look, did you see me do anything wrong the whole day?" The man says, "No." But the shaitan says to him, "But you see, you followed me the whole day. I've been watching you. I never saw you once make salah the whole day. And you call me a shaitan." So what they do is we basically put the blame on shaitan when we are basically the shaitan.
Dr. Faiez, just on a final note, we have one message that came via WhatsApp that says, there are two types of knowledge: the knower who should be practical and the one who does not know, to seek knowledge and act on it.
Yes, look, when I talk about information deficiency syndrome, I'm talking about specific subjects like the globalist agenda, health, and so forth. So if you don't have enough information about health, about your own health, then you're suffering from information deficiency syndrome. And if you have wrong information about health that's harming your health, then you suffer from disinformation. You can't know everything. Only Allah knows everything. When I refer to these two diagnoses or conditions, it refers to specific subjects. So we need to ask ourselves, how much information do I have about the globalist agenda, about health, about the legal system, and so forth? And if we don't have enough and we need to have that information, if you don't need that information, fine, that's not going to affect you. But if you need, like a doctor, if he doesn't know anything about natural health care, for example, and the politics of health, then he's suffering from information deficiency syndrome. If he has the wrong beliefs about health and healthcare and the healthcare system and the history of the healthcare system, then he's suffering from disinformation syndrome, So these are important things relating to specific subjects,
Dr. Faiez, just in conclusion, what can we take from this morning discussions in terms of corporations and how we blindly follow like sheep?
I don't know. Maybe I must just quote Surah Tawbah, verse 1. Allah says in verse 1, "This is a declaration of disavowal, in other words, denial or rejection by Allah and His Messenger to those who associate others with Allah in His divinity and with whom you have made treaties." So all our leaders, our countries, our Muslim countries making treaties with satanic forces which are taking us to hell, maybe we should look at Surah Tawbah.
Dr. Faiez, to you, shukran so much for your time and all of the best, inshallah.
Afwan, shukran, I appreciate it.
Stay tuned to Radio 786 on 100.4 FM and all that and more here on Radio 786 on 100.4 FM.